Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about melting tooth syndrome.
Melting? Why are my teeth melting?
Yeah, melting tooth syndrome. So what is melting tooth syndrome? Essentially, melting tooth syndrome is acid erosion. So let's look at some pictures and see what real acid erosion looks like. So those are obviously pretty extreme cases at this point. They have been acid eroding their teeth for quite some time. So what causes melting teeth? Well, acid. So let's talk about the pH scale real quick, just so we have a quick refresher on how that works. If you've been through high school, then you remember the pH scale stands for potential hydrogen, and you're looking at a scale from 0 to 14, 1 to 14, this is 1 to 14. And 1 is going to be the most acidic you can get, which is like car batteries, stomach acid, and then up to 14, which is going to be a very basic. Water typically sits at about 7, although we're going to talk about water later, and your saliva actually sits at about 7.4, so it's nice and neutral. So what are some conditions that would cause a lowering of the pH in the mouth that would cause acid erosion on the teeth? GERD, acid reflux, frequent vomiting from pregnancy, from anorexia, bulimia. Those are the types of things. Then you have your foods and your drinks that also cause acidity in the mouth. So today we're going to focus on drinks mostly because I know everybody's kind of stuck indoors right now and everybody's eating way more than they should be. We're all drinking probably what we shouldn't be. So at what point does enamel start to erode away? So a pH needs to get to 5.5 for your teeth to start dissolving. For the inner layer of a tooth, it only needs to be at 6.5. It's actually, once you get into that inner layer of the teeth or down around the gums, like if you have gums that recede and it's showing more of that dentin cementum layer, it's much softer than your enamel. So quickly, let's talk about the digestion process. Anytime you put something in your mouth that's not water, your body goes into digestion, which means your saliva actually drops into a more acidic state to start that digestion process. What happens though is if you're grazing all day long, where you're eating food constantly or you're drinking constantly, or you have, your big pop and you're sipping on it all day, or your coffee that you're sipping on all day, you're keeping your saliva in a constant state of acid. So even if you're drinking something that's not super acidic, your saliva itself is going to be to the point of causing an issue. And it takes almost an hour for your saliva to buffer back up to normal once you've quit eating. So it's really important to not sip on things because you keep it in that perpetual state of acid. You need time for the saliva to buffer itself back up, and so you can get back into that neutral state so the teeth are essentially repairing themselves versus dissolving away. You want that calcium, the magnesium that's coming out of your saliva to refresh the teeth versus to dissolve them. So now that we know what the digestion process does, let's look at some of maybe your favorite drinks and what the acid level is on them. I think you might be surprised. Oh, goodness. Really? Isn't it a little early? Oh, come on. I switched from coffee to tea. What more do you want from me? Fine. Really? You're gonna take away my orange juice too? But it's fruit. It's healthy. It's healthy. Too much garlic. It's almost right here. Psst. Hey, Nat. You may want to go a little easy on that one too. Seriously? You gave me this stuff. Yeah, I know, but word to the wise, just go a little easy on it. Really? Fine. You can have it. Give it to you. Give up. Okay, Miss Wise Guy, there is no complaining about this one. This time, I'm drinking water. Just gonna drink a little bit of water with some lemon. What do you expect me to do?
30, 35, 50. Okay, that's enough. Oh, yes. Love this stuff. Oh, come on! Can't you just leave me alone?
So how many of those were something that maybe you drink every day or even a couple times a week? Any of those look familiar? And I didn't even get into any of the alcohol, the wine, the beer, we didn't even touch on any of that stuff. But yeah, were any of those, you know, maybe your favorite or something similar? So one thing I didn't have in my house they couldn't demo for you is bottled water. Turns out a lot of the bottled waters are very acidic, which is just shocking. You think, well, I'm buying water, it should be healthy. Not always, depending on the brand, and a lot of the bigger brands are actually going to be too acidic for your mouth. So I am not going to go into which waters are good and which are not. I'm going to link below and somewhere up here a couple of videos. There's a couple of videos actually that have done a very good job at going to a store, grabbing all the bottled water off the shelf, and then testing everything there in front of you so you can see how basic or how acidic they are and which brands you should probably, if you're into drinking bottled water, which ones you should probably be leaning towards. And you know, it wouldn't be a bad idea to test your city water too. I do have a really long list of very common drinks. I think there's some foods on there. So if you're interested in seeing that list, and if maybe some of your favorite stuff's on there, contact me through Instagram at Life Beyond the Floss, and I will get those to you. I didn't want to post it down here. It's quite a few pages, but if you're interested, I can get you the information. So what are symptoms of acid erosion? Sensitivity is probably the biggest one, and then maybe being able to see the enamel wearing away, like if your lowers, and that can come from grinding too, but if your lower front teeth, you can kind of see that inner layer where their teeth are flattened off, or on the insides or on the outsides, like the pictures we saw earlier. If your teeth are starting to look like that, yeah. If you're biting straight into a lemon every day, probably not the best idea. Again, that lemon water, well, it's super good for your digestion, really bad on the teeth. So how can you prevent acid erosion? One thing that's super easy to do is just don't snack between your meals. On the same line, don't be sipping on something all day. Drink your water, but don't be sipping your orange juice or your teas or your coffees or your, and that's so hard, or your sodas. Have it with a meal, have it all at once, and don't sip on it throughout the day. There are some toothpaste you can use as well. Sensodyne or the Pronamel from Sensodyne, both very good. The Arm & Hammer with baking soda is also very good. Pretty much anything that's going to have baking soda in it where it's buffering the mouth back to normal also is great. Another tip I can give you is sip your drinks through a straw. Most people don't want to do that with their coffee and their red wine. However, your pop, your fruit juices, your, the other stuff, sip it through a straw. It keeps it off your teeth. Try not to swish forward when you swallow. Keeps the stain off as well. So an added benefit to drinking through a straw. And one of the easiest things you can do is just rinse with water afterwards. Just nice big swish and spit and you're done. And that will help to buffer that back up right away. So I mentioned vomiting earlier. I did want to talk about that real quick as well. When you vomit, the acid from the stomach is so strong that if you immediately go and brush your teeth have softened. And the toothbrush is more like a kettle scratcher. So it's like taking one of those metal kettle scratchers and you're just destroying your teeth. So if you are vomiting, do a baking soda rinse first and then brush your teeth, or just rinse with water, just rinse with the baking soda water, but don't brush for a while because that, again, that acid is so strong, it really does damage to the teeth, and you don't want to be in there just brushing right away. If you already have acid erosion that you've noticed, go to your dentist. There's a lot they can do to help restore your mouth, and I know they'd be happy to help you. If you're getting that sensitivity from that, you can try the toothpaste. There's lots of stuff your hygienist and your dentist can recommend for that. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. It was a lot of fun to put together. Like and subscribe, and comment below. Did I touch on anything that you were like, oh, I didn't know that? Or what is your favorite drink? Is it one of the lists that I managed to hit, or is it something else that might be on my other list? Let me know below. I love talking to you guys. Have a great rest of your week, and I will see you soon.
Ah!